Happy New Year, everyone. I continue to talk on this text, opening with the hand of thought. In my record, this is the 260th talk on this book, and possibly next time I'll complete.
Could you check your microphone? Make sure it's off. Okay, thank you.
So this is based on Uchiyama Roshi's lecture on the occasion of his retirement. This talk was given on Sunday, and next day he left Antaiji. And he talks more than 2 hours, so it was a long talk. And he talked on 7 points of what he kept in his mind when he practiced or taught at Antaiji at the abbot to keep the Sangha in a good shape. And last time I completed those 7 points. If you are interested, please read this book. So after talking those 7 points, he gave a kind of final remark, and he introduced 2 poems about living Antaiji and how he's going to live after retirement. And today I'd like to talk the first poem. And the poem is the title of the poem is Leaving Antaiji. Let me read the first paragraph and the poem. The preceding 7 points, the 7 points he talked, covered the things I kept before me all the time I kept before me all the time I was about of Antaiji. So that was the things he kept in his mind. I hope they will serve you. In this case, you mean his disciples who are going to practice not as his student at Antaiji, but many of them left Antaiji and start to practice in their own ways. So he wished those 7 points are helpful. Continue their practice. Of reference, I wrote a poem about where I am now when he lived at Antaiji. Though I am not sure whether it really qualifies as a poem or not. He's always humble about his poem. He wrote many poems, but he thinks these are not a poem, but these are just writing or collection of his words, not so poetic. But I think these are good poems, so-called Dharma poems, not so poetic in common sense. Anyway, the poem is as follows. As an old man, I have my own practice. It is different from that of youth. It is not working, facing outward, but just facing inward, gazing at myself, and like the clouds that disappear into the expansive sky, I too will disappear quietly. So this is his kind of wish to live after he retired from Antaiji. He want to keep quiet life and just watching himself and disappear quietly. We translate the second line, I have my own practice. And as an old man, I have my own practice. But the word he used is shigoto. Shigoto is more like work. So he has been work as a abbot, but after retirement, I continue a kind of work, different kind of work. But work doesn't good meaning in America. So we translate it as a practice. Work sounds like to make money. So he is saying this is not the end of his life. Retirement is not the end of his life. He continue to work or to practice. And it is difficult, different. It is different from that of youth. So when he was work, he did certain kind of work, many kind of work. But after retirement, his work is different kind. It is not working facing outward to work with other people or to work in the society, but his work is to go inside. But just facing inward. It's not working facing outward, but just facing inward, gazing at myself to see ourselves. So it is like the Zen. In our daily lives, out of the Zendo, we work toward outside. But when we enter the Zendo and sit facing the wall, we don't see anything outward. But we are just who we are. And that is what facing inward means. So that means after this day, his life is like just sitting, even though he couldn't sit so much anymore. Actually, when he retired, he was 63. It's much younger than me. But still, somehow, I feel he's still much more, how can I say, matured. I still feel I'm a disciple or even a kid to receive teaching. You know, Dogen died when he was 53. I don't believe, so Dogen didn't know how to practice when he was 77. So we have to create our own way. In Dogen's teaching, there's no such teaching how we can practice when we are really old. So we have to find how to practice with aged body and mind. Anyway, but just facing inward, gazing at myself. And like the clouds that disappear into the expansive sky. So we are like a clouds in the sky. And sooner or later, clouds disappear and return to the sky. And for him, dying is like a clouds disappear into the ocean, not the ocean, into the sky. So dying is not something negative, but dying is, in Buddhism, dying is entering nirvana. Buddha entered Nirvana when he died. Of course, people around him were very sad, but Buddha himself was not sad. I think he has a kind of satisfaction. He did what he need to do for his 80 years of his life. So Uchiyama Roshi is saying his life after retirement is like being clouds in the sky. Stay for a while and disappear quietly. I too will disappear quietly. So that is his hope. And he did. Actually, after he was retired, he lived many years until he was 86. So more than 20 years he lived as a retired person. And as he said, he had his own work, not only watching or seeing his own self, but he wrote. He gave lectures for many years on Shobogenzo, and many of his lectures were transcribed and published as a book. So he did a lot of work. And also he wrote this kind of poem, and I think two collection of his poems are published about his life in his age. And he also wrote essays about aging. So he was really teaching about what aged life is like, what happens in his body and mind when he was aging. And that was a great teaching for us. Actually, when I was younger, I was not interested in that kind of teachings. But now, what he wrote after his retirement is really a wonderful teaching. Anyway, so this is the first poem. So he is saying our life as a human being is like a cloud that is empty. Cloud is a symbol of emptiness. It's there, but it's not really there. You know, clouds are H2O. H2O came from the ocean as evaporated, and when it go up, it's colder. Therefore, it become clouds, and clouds disappear, and there's no place we can say they go. So it came from everywhere and stay for a while as independent beings and return to everywhere. So this not idea, but this teaching came from the Buddhist teaching of emptiness and impermanence. Impermanence, emptiness, no self. So we live this within this entire network of interdependent origination. And sometimes we appear as a baby and live as an individual person for 13 years. And we return to the network of interdependent origination. So this period of time, in his case, 86 years, was not a life as a really independent person or individual person, but these are the form of entire network. Appear as an individual person, and when he died, he returned to the entire network. That is what he is going to say as an explanation of this poem. Let me read paragraph by paragraph. Lately, I have fully realized that when we open the hand of thought, or letting go of thought, we are the self of the whole Dharma world, whether we think so or not. So he's talking about, this expression, the self of the whole Dharma world. Came from Dogen's teaching. The expression he used is Jin Hokkai Jiko. Jin Hokkai is Dogen's expressions. This all beings and this entire Dharma world are interconnected. So nothing is independent. So as a self, actually we, as a reality of the self, we are together with all beings within Dharma, entire Dharma world. But between the time we are born until we die, we live as an individual, one person. As I always talk or write, this one person is empty. There's no such person. So this self is no self. One self is actually no self. Or in Japanese, muga. No Atman. Anatman is what Buddha taught. And this idea came from the Buddha's teaching of impermanence, no self, and interconnectedness. So while we are live within the world, we are one person, one individual person. I am different from all of you, and each of you are different from me or other people. So there's some independence. And yet that independence is just a collection of all different elements. As Buddha said, 5 aggregate or 5 skandhas. And as the Mahayana teaching says, 5 aggregates or 5 skandhas are empty. So this self is empty. That means there's no such thing. And yet, when we see there's no fixed, independent self, we can see that interconnectedness. That means all things coming and going, all causes and conditions create this person, this body and mind. And these 5 skandhas are always changing. Things are coming in and going out. Not only the body, but also what we think is also coming from outside and stay for a while and go somewhere. So nothing is really fixed. That is what Jin Hokkai means, entire 10-direction world, or entire Dharma world means. Things are coming in from everywhere, and we stay for a while as one self. And yet this one self is no self. Because there's no self, we are together with all beings within this entire Dharma world. That is Buddha's and also Mahayana teaching. And Uchiyama Roshi is talking about his own life in his retirement based on this teaching or this idea or insight. So whether we think this is true or not true, whether we believe this or not, this is reality of all beings, not only living beings, but all things are existing in the same way. Like a quote, things are just coming and going. Even an atom is a collection of different things, so it means it can be separate. So things are the same thing, all things, not only human beings. That is what the idea of this, the self as the entire Dharma world. And yet this self of the entire Dharma world appear as one person like me, as a Shohaku. And this Shohaku has certain causes and conditions. That means karma. Because I'm conditioned, I was born in Japan and lived in certain society and educated by Japanese education. And I didn't like that education, so I became a Buddhist monk. And I studied Buddhism. That's why I think in this way. So the things I learned at Japanese school go away. And I studied Buddha's teaching, and I thought that makes more sense to me. So it's still here, and I think and talk based on that teaching. But I don't know how long my thinking about what I studied in Buddhist text stay in my brain. Sooner or later it's gone. And not only what I think in my brain, but entire 5 skandhas disperse. And we think that is something negative, but it's not negative. That is what the Buddha taught. So this is important to understand. This is reality, and this is the way we cannot change. That is why this is called Dharma, the capital D Dharma. And the way Buddhist teachers explain about this reality is different. Or even Buddha talk in different ways about this reality and how we as one person have to live. And that is what Uchiyama Roshi is going to talk next. Next paragraph. Do you understand this self of the whole Dharma world? So he was not sure if, he has been teaching this for while he was abbot of Antaiji, but he was still not sure if we understood. Actually, I don't think I understood as a kind of a expression or theory. I thought I understand because I had so many times, but still it was just a theory or idea or thinking. He gave this lecture when I was 26. I think it's too young to understand this as reality, as a theory, because I studied Buddhist teaching at the university and practice at Antaiji. I understand this as a theory or philosophy, but this is not something I don't really experience or see within our life, within my own life. So understanding about the theory or logic or words and seeing truth or reality of that teaching is kind of different. So we need to that's why we need to practice, not only short time but many years. So Uchiyama Roshi is still questioning if his disciples understand what this is, what this really means. And I think he wrote in this book that he really understand, or usually as a popular word, that this is called as awakening or enlightenment. But he said this is not like this kind of sudden experience, but somehow he really see this reality, experience this reality after he moved to Antaiji. He was already, I think, more than 40 years. He had been practicing with Shohaku Roshi for more than 10 years. And he finally see this is reality of his own life. And he says, everything is one with everything. This is interconnectedness. Everything is one with everything. Whether we think so or not, whether we agree with this teaching or not, that is true. That is our true self. So this reality is our true self, as emptiness, no self, and interconnectedness. And we can see, in my understanding, we can see other three aspects as one individual person, but this one person is no self. And therefore we are together with all beings as within the Dharma world. So everything is one with everything. Whether we think so or not, that is our true self. So our true self is not this karmic person. That is part of it, or one aspect of this true self. Perhaps you don't believe it, but the reality of it continues anyway. So that means this reality doesn't change. Even Shakyamuni Buddha awakened to this reality. The reality was reality. And even after all human beings disappeared within this universe, still it's there. If we open the hand of thought, so now he's talking about open the hand of thought. We are one with the whole universe. So we make distinction. I am not you, you are not me. With my thinking, I am this kind of person, they are that kind of people. That happens in my thinking. And other thinking, it might be right or it might be wrong. But those are all thinking. So if we open the hand of thought, so he's talking about letting go of thought or opening the hand of thought. So his idea, not idea, but understanding of self and life is based on his Zazen experience. Letting go of thought or opening hand of thought is his expression about his Zazen. That is basically what he's talking in this entire book. So if we open the hand of thought, we are one with the whole universe. This truth leads to the crucial point for us of what role we should be playing right now, right here. And so he used another aspect of, I don't know, of his life. That is, as an individual person, here and now, I live as Shohaku, as a Buddhist priest. That is only possible way I can live here and now. So I have certain, he used the word role. And the Japanese word he used is haiyaku. Yaku. Yaku literally means role. The position we have, and we need to do certain things. And hai is basically there are two or more meanings. One is hai means to deliver. Delivering with haitatsu. And another meaning, another important meaning of hai is allot, or allotted, or allocated. So haiyaku in modern Japanese word, haiyaku means like a casting the role in the play or in the movie. Those are called haiyaku. So not many Japanese people know what haiyaku means when he talks. So I have to talk. Haiyaku. What is wrong? The marker or eraser? Or both? Or maybe I don't have strong enough hands. Thank you. Haiyaku is actually Zen word, Zen expression at a Zen monastery. Basically, the structure of Zen monastery is the head monk or abbot is on the top, and it's like a pyramid. And there are two sides. One is called temple administrators, and there are 6 main administrators. And another side, this is usually sits in the east, and this side is west. Head monk and other people mainly practice are in the other side. And there are some training monks is working within this side. And the other group of monks not work but focus on Zazen practice and studying Dharma. And do some necessary work also. So these are, and there are many different roles. One of them most familiar with us is Tenzo. Tenzo is one of the 6 administrators. And some monks, training monks, are assistant of the Tenzo. And all temple administrators have their group. And people in the Zendo, in the Sodo, is focused on studying Dharma and practicing Zazen and other or doing ceremonies. And they change the position each year. And each year when they change the position, they have a kind of meeting who should be in which position. That is what Hayaku means, to allot some one monk to be tender assistant or assistant of a work leader or accounting. So there are many different works in the monasteries. It said at least there are 40 some positions, and abbot and administrators need to think who should be which role and who should focus on practice and studying. That is what Hayaku means. And when we have the Shuso ceremony, we have tea on the day before Shuso ceremony. We call that tea ceremony is called Honsoku Gyocha. Gyocha means tea ceremony. Tea is served. And in this case, Honsoku means main case on which Shuso is talking about. What Shuso and monks have discussion, question and answer. That is particular tea ceremony. But another important tea ceremony is called Hayaku Gyocha. That means having tea ceremony to announce who take which position. That is usually in the beginning of the practice period. So someone make announcement, and all people accept their position. And after that, as we do, I think we do, all monks make 3 prostration. That means we accept such a role. So when Uchiyama Roshi is talking, using this expression, Hayaku or role, he talks about this idea. And this is very important to understand the meaning of working together within the Sangha in a peace and harmony. And the most famous, well-known writing about this kind of work is Dogen Zenji's Tenzo Kyokun. He talks about the work of Tenzo, how Tenzo should work together with his assistants, and also the food ingredient and fire, our water, and all other things. And in the very beginning of the Tenzo Kyokun, Dogen says, from the beginning in Buddha's family, that means from the history of beginning of the Buddhist history, in Buddha's family, there have been 6 temple administrators. 6 means those 6 administrators. And not only 6, but there are many other. But when he talks about Tenzo, he only talks about those 6 administrators and said, they are all Buddha's children. So all these, not only these administrators, but all monks working together with him. They are all Buddha's children, and together they carry out Buddha's work. So this is Buddha's work. And that is the meaning of this word role here when Uchiyama Roshi uses. So that means all people within the Sangha work for the Dharma and carry out Buddha's work. And when Uchiyama Roshi used this same word hayaku or role, he is saying when he was young, he worked in various positions actually. Antaiji was a small, it's not really a monastery, it's a small temple. Many years he lived alone or only small monks. So there's no such many positions or many roles. So he had to do many things. But all of them are working for the sake of Dharma together. And now he starts to talk about his practice until this time. While Shohaku Roshi was alive, Shohaku Roshi died in 1965, and I think Uchiyama Roshi was 53. And when Shohaku Roshi passed away, Uchiyama Roshi became the abbot. And he declared that he would be abbot, serve as abbot only for 10 years. And he retired from 75. So that was the time he is giving this talk. So when he was young, he practiced at Antaiji, and Shohaku Roshi was not really live at Antaiji. He visited Antaiji every month, once a month, to lead the session. And he, rest of the time, he was always traveling all over Japan. So there's no abbot at Antaiji. And Uchiyama Roshi was only alone or a few monks. That was how he practiced until his teacher, Shohaku Roshi, passed away. That is what he's going to say. While Shohaku Roshi was alive, my role, my hayaku, was that of a novice monk. So, because there's no, how can I say, assistance, he had to do everything by himself or with a few monks. And I played that role for a pretty long time until he was 53. I was a novice until I was 52 or 53 years old. Even though I was a novice, I was already an old monk. I played the role of the old novice right up to the end. So that was how he practiced as his hayaku or role. That means he had to do everything he needed. Even he had because Antaiji has no family members, he had to do takuhatsu or begging to support themselves. And that was right after World War II. So Japan was in poverty. And when he did takuhatsu, he did begging. There are real, true beggars in the cities. So it was not easy for monks to beg. But that was how he practiced when he was young. And I played the role of the old novice right up to the end. That means until Shohaku Roshi passed away. After Sawaki Roshi passed away, I took a new role, that of an abbot. So old monk, old novice became abbot. But the situation is not so different. Even though he became abbot, I think in the beginning only few monks were there. Well, I went visited Antaiji for the first time in 1969. At Antaiji, only 4 resident monks were there, together with Uchiyama Roshi. So it was still small community. But it's interesting. Next year, in 1970, when I was ordained, I think we had about 10 monks. So the Sangha grew so quickly because Uchiyama Roshi published books and many people like his teachings and his style of practice, of focus on Zazen practice. So after he became the abbot, giving talks and being a teacher have been part of my role. So his role became changed. I have spent all my effort at fulfilling that role. So far he was in that role, he thought these 7 points were important. That was what he wanted to transmit those 7 points to his disciples. Then my role became that of retiring, and he is going to get another role, that is retirement. Then my role became that of retiring. It would be silly to think that being a novice was no good, and being an abbot was good, and that going into retirement was becoming worthless again. So he's talking about a role within this structure, even though the position is different. But all members of that community work for the Dharma. So retirement is also one role. But he left the community or monastery, but his role continues as a Buddha's child. But usually people think, even in Buddhist temples, to be the abbot has a power and authority, and people around him just follow that authority. Often people follow the abbot not because the abbot's dharma, but because the authority of the abbot. That's a difference. So in that framework, people think to be abbot is good. So I mean, I don't want to say about Sotoshu, but the Sotoshu as religious institution is the same thing. People are kind of compete to become the higher position. But his idea is kind of different. To be the abbot is just an expression of Dharma, not for the sake of authority or the power. Actually, there's no authority at the abbot of Antaiji, because the head of only small number of people, and there's no income. Until he retired, we continued to do begging to support our practice. So there's no money there, no wealth. And Antaiji was not the official monastery. So no matter how many years we practice at Antaiji, there's no, how can I say, but no license is given to be the temple priest. After I practiced Antaiji about 5 years, but after he left, I have to go to the official monastery to receive the qualification. And I need to get the qualification to get a visa to come to this country. So I cannot avoid that process. So right after he left in 75, I went to one of the local official monastery named Zuyoji for the minimum time, that is 6 months. So I only experience and know the traditional Soto Zen monastic practice only for 6 months. So don't trust me. Anyway, here we are. So people think to be the abbot is in the powerful power with authority, but in his case, there's no such power or authority. Being the abbot is just a leader of the sangha to lead the session and give teaching. There's no other merit, actually. I think the most important thing is our attitude toward each role. When he was young, he worked as a novice monk, and when he was abbot, he worked as an abbot, and when he retired, he thinks there's another kind of work he needs to do. So I think the most important thing is our attitude toward each role, devoting ourselves to it to that role entirely. An old priest counseled me, gave him the advice to retire. He gave advice to Uchiyama Roshi not to retire. He said that once you retire, all your power gets taken away by your disciples. So you become powerless. But personally, I don't think that way at all. That was a kind of a common way in other Buddhist temples. But he said, I don't think that way at all, because there's no power at Antaiji. It's just another role. So to be the abbot is another role, and to be retired person is also next role. When I became abbot, I declared that I would retire after 10 years. That is what I said. Because the population of old people is increasing in Japan. And I think it is still true. After 50 years, we have so many old people. If old people do not retire to make way for the younger generations, there is going to be trouble to the younger people. So I wanted to set an example, and I follow his way. So even before I started to Sanshinji, I made a decision I will retire when I become 75. And I did. I'm really fortunate someone took over this position. There are some Zen centers in this country, when the founder become old, it kind of, in many places, it's old to find people who take the position. So I think Sanshinji is really fortunate. So he wants to become the example of young people, elder people who retire, to give the opportunity to the younger people. We shouldn't imagine that life after retirement has to be miserable. Retired life is not miserable for him, or impoverished. In a sense, in the world, it is true. When someone retired from certain job, he has less income. But for him, to be old is also one of our role to work for the Dharma. So there must be certain things only elder can do. When we are young, our role is to work. Upon retirement, we take up another role. There's another work or practice. It's different from younger people. Since we have less income, we should simplify our lives as much as possible. That is a way to fulfill the role of an old person. We should not judge it miserable. It's not a miserable life. We just become less income or less money, and then we need to work to live without much expenditure. That's all. So we should not judge it miserable, but just devote oneself so that particular role, to devote ourselves to that particular role of retired person. We function through our role and exert ourselves in our occupations as a role. Finally, dying is one of our roles. So dying, disappearing like a cloud disappear into the sky is another role. It's not negative thing. This is end of this section about that poem. And he is going to talk about the next poem, but I'll continue next time. So to me, this is really good, useful, and important teaching for me now. I try to follow, not to, it's younger people as well. So I try to not disturb younger people, especially in America. You need to be creative to the best way to practice this traditional practice in America. for the sake of American people, the best you need to create the best way to practice this Dharma in America. But I don't know. Even though I live in America for 30 years, still I'm not American. And my judgment is still about Japanese. So if I try to control American people, it doesn't work. So I try not to control things and be quiet. And I try to do things I can do by myself without help of younger people. And one thing I can do by myself is writing and translating, and what I have been experiencing and thinking. And hopefully it might be helpful for younger people in the next generation. So I try not to complain, but it's kind of enjoyable to. I have so much time to read books. I couldn't read when I was working. I was young, even though I have many Buddhist books, especially Dogen's writings. It takes a really long time to understand. So I have enough books to read within this life until I disappear into the sky. So I really feel I'm lucky. Well, this is what I have to say today. Any question or comment? So when he talks about retirement, he's also talking about, he's still thinking and talking about the Dharma, about who we are, what is the reality of our lives. Okay.
Any questions or comment from this room first?
Good.
Anyone in the Zoom world? Silent.
I guess I have a question that I could maybe ask some people might be interested in. I think that some people have a really strong fear of death. I think that our practice maybe helps with that kind of fundamentally. But I wonder what your maybe advice would be to someone who is that way, who feels like, even though maybe you say, oh, it's just, a cloud disappearing into the sky, really they feel very scared. What would you say to a person like that?
This is not my thinking, but this is what Buddha taught. Be free from three poisonous minds: greed, anger, hatred, and with that wisdom. So that is the main essential point of this teaching, how we can be free from suffering of life. And what Buddha taught was not so different. If we don't have a greedy attachment to what we have while we are alive, and if we think these are important, those things make me happy, then we have to lose, then dying is really painful and suffering. That is true. But if we are free from that kind of attachment, then we just disappear. But it's really difficult to be free from that kind of attachment. That's why we say, three poisonous mind express themselves in 108 delusions or desires. Therefore, we need 108 Dharma grades. So, my advice is practice. Okay. Okay, thank you very much.